So when I cleared most of Anthem's content on Grandmaster 2 difficulty today, I felt a deep sense of just frustration and dissatisfaction. I had at this point played the game for just under 50 hours, spending my entire last week glued to my monitor to see how deep the rabbit hole of Anthem really went. Anthem is a game that perhaps at one point was conceived to be a much more expansive game than it is with a bigger scale. I truly believe that Anthem was conceptualized by BioWare as some sort of epic giant game, but unfortunately, the vision they had for the game devolved into just basically a recycling simulator, and what's on rotation is barren at best. The thing that bothers me the most about Anthem is that it has everything that you could possibly want for a foundation of an incredible game. The world that they built is a world we haven't seen in video games ever, but when you really break Anthem down, there's really nothing exciting about it. When players hit level 30, they'll have access to various forms of content in the city of Fort Tarsis.
Now it's just a question of what you do next.
I get the feeling that's where you come in.
Mostly dailies, strongholds, some random contracts too, as well as all prior story content on repeat that they've already done. By queuing up for quick play, which is Anthem's easiest way to find a group, all of this is basically up for grabs and you'll be dumped into whatever randomized form of content Anthem slots you into. But by this time, you've already experienced about 95% of the content, the Temple of the Scar being the only thing new to do. Yes, there's a few other things to do, but it's all very reminiscent of what's come before it. Like many games released today, the concern for how far our $60 will take us is always up in the air, and it's always a question. And quite honestly, I would say absolutely do not buy Anthem on day one, because what you get is not worth the entry fee, not by a stretch of a mile. Anthem is essentially the new baseline standard of how to take a massive idea for a video game and squeeze it into the most compartmentalized experience possible. And for most of us, it's going to be an endless loop of recycled content in Anthem. I love the way Anthem feels, but it makes me feel like nothing but a slave when I play it. I spent 50 hours queuing into the same dungeon on Grandmaster 2, looting the same 2 chests because nobody wanted to sit through the entire thing. Each run, my squad would leave before we could get to the boss, vanishing into thin air. Is this what gaming is in 2019? Zipping through content as fast as humanly possible, not caring about the context of what we're playing. I would hope that actually means something to BioWare, because currently Anthem is a circus act of hopping from run to run, speeding through content as fast as humanly possible without stopping to smell the roses. Honestly though, there's not much to smell. Outside of free play, Anthem has absolutely no personality inside of its artificiality. The beauty of Anthem means nothing when no one seems to care about why we're playing it. The story is a joke and gives no context to why we want to enter the Temple of the Scar 80 times to find an orange item. Why, when we complete the game, does the Bard ask us to prove our worth by completing 100 events, 25 strongholds, 25 contracts, and 25 quick plays? Isn't the conflict over? Shouldn't there be something more here, something with meaning? Or is this blanket sweep just here to keep us inside the world of Anthem, endlessly hunting marginal upgrades or a weapon that does 10 more damage? At least in Diablo, there's a great deal of lore to the experience. In that game, or even some of the expansions of Destiny, there's this undercurrent to our playtime as if we're part of something bigger that actually means something. Anthem feels hollow in this regard. We muck about an empty city that has no life or personality. We pick up a quest, the same one we've done 20 times before, because why? Even if you want to chalk it up to saying, you know what, who cares, it's just a fun looter shooter. Is it really? Gameplay in Anthem is fun for a while, but it's only going to be fun for so long given the fact that so many problems happen when you step back and look at it from afar. Playing Anthem is essentially an exercise in repetition, both in terms of how you execute your gameplay and the act of how you complete the content. After my 60th time of collecting fuel to blow up a door, or my 100th time defending against a wave of enemies, I was getting pretty goddamn tired, especially when you consider how the game's structure conflicts with the very nature of a good loot-based game. One of the biggest crimes Anthem commits is that no piece of content you can pursue, such as a dungeon or a public event, has anything unique tied to it. And there's no loot tables for each stronghold, which is an absolute shame. Bosses, they don't have unique drops either, and most epic items are the same as any other ability, just having different modifiers attached to them. Even the masterwork or legendary items, they feel underwhelming too. So in the end, you play Anthem over and over and over, going from mission to stronghold to repeat mission to repeat stronghold, hoping for the elusive legendary item to pop out of a chest. Each boss in Anthem should have specific items they drop. That's so fundamentally necessary that the omission of it boggles the mind. Currently, the only thing you get from killing a Grandmaster 3 boss in one of the game's 3 dungeons is just a better chance at getting a randomized Masterwork or legendary item, but you can still get them from any other activity in the game of the same difficulty. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure that's the way it works, and if this is the case, not very compelling whatsoever. But even in those dungeons, the gameplay has problems due to structure and artificial intelligence. Both are done without any sophistication. Anthem's dungeons are just a mess of wave-based encounters. There's no smart AI, no enemy in the game ever dodges, flanks, or learns. It's just a mosh pit style gameplay without any thinking. Instead of building a fundamentally good AI system, what's put in Anthem is just cheap annoyances that annoy the shit out of the player. Enemies either lock onto you magically for a one-shot or cluster up without any sense so that you can AoE them to death. Shield enemies provide nothing more than a nuisance, forcing players to get behind them, yet they're able to spin around like they're standing on a record player once you do so. You'd hope that bosses would be better, which are interesting on the first attempt, but nothing short of boring after a few runs, and you're going to be doing a lot more runs than just a few. You'd also hope that when you actually increase the difficulty of the game, there'd be some new mechanics or new ways to play through the dungeons, but the only thing that happens is that enemies get more HP, which makes it more annoying for the player. I expect a lot more when it comes to paying $60 for this kind of experience. But my biggest concern about Anthem is that the higher tier difficulties are accessible easily when you hit 30 right away. Within just a few hours of hitting level cap, I was farming the first 2 chests in Grandmaster 2 difficulty. I mean, where's the progression here? If we're talking about Anthem here in terms of does it have legs as a looter shooter, I assume that the Grandmaster difficulties were going to be actually difficult to get through. And yet, here I am plowing through most of the content on some of the hardest difficulties 2 days after hitting level 30. I remember playing Diablo 2 or something like vanilla World of Warcraft, where you had this massive journey to level cap, and then all the other content that came after it was this huge journey to get through, months and months and months of hard work to get to the end. It's not like that in Anthem at all. And the fact that EA and BioWare designed a game that allows players to this quickly take in some of the hardest content in the game just days after they hit level cap is absurd. When I recorded this clip of my Colossus at power level 410 plus, it was 1 day after I finished the campaign and hit level cap. And believe it or not, just 1 day later, my Colossus was at power level 460. 460, enough to take on all the content in the game, no questions asked. I'm just so disappointed at the entire structure of how Anthem was built. First, you go through this very trite and boring story that only takes about 10 hours. Then you repeat recycled missions for, the next 7 hours to get to level cap. And when you do that, if you did it on hard mode, you're already ready for Grandmaster 1 difficulty. You do a few runs of the Temple of the Scar, you get a few Masterwork items, and you're already ready for Grandmaster 2 the very next day. You do a few more runs, a couple days later, you can take on the final difficulty. Coupled with the fact that there's no life inside Anthem whatsoever, this entire process is just too fast and too unsatisfying. Anthem had the potential to be a phenomenal game with a wealth of lore and backstory and important meaning and deep character progression and just awesome loot mechanics, unique bosses that dropped really cool stuff and just a whole bunch of stuff to do. But in the end, it has absolutely none of that. When I play Anthem, I feel like a zombie and I'm just on autopilot to get the next piece of gear that reminds me of something I already have. I speed through the same content at the same breakneck speed with everyone else, and nothing draws me in. I see the beauty of the world when I fly over it, but it means nothing. I talk to nobody, I'm captivated by nothing meaningful, and all I feel is emptiness and repetition. What EA managed to do is take an amazing vision for a game and cram it inside the cold, confining hollow of the live gaming model. It could be, at some point, the experience of a lifetime, but I'm not willing to wait 2 years for it to get to that point. When we purchase a game on day one, it's supposed to fill us with energy and life and excitement. Anthem does not make me feel that way at all. And those are my final thoughts on Anthem after 50 hours played. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. This basically concludes my review of Anthem from the start to the finish. Unfortunately, it is not the experience that I thought it would be, and I cannot recommend you pick up this game today for $60. EA, yet again, has let an exciting idea slip through their fingers, and for that, shame on them. Because Anthem could have been one of the best games of the year by far. So leave me your feedback down below, guys. I'm also going to include patch notes for the day 1 patch in the pinned comment. I've looked through them, and there's nothing major that they've changed. They fixed a few bugs, that's cool, but in terms of like actually adding more content, definitely not. Don't get your hopes up. This is Thrust signing off. You guys have an amazing day and a wonderful rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you guys soon with our next video. Take care.